Y'all, today I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of a turbocharger and a supercharger. They're obviously both forced induction, and obviously it makes your car or engine have more power if it's a gas or diesel engine. Now, you cannot use a supercharger on a diesel. You can only use turbochargers. But let me go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be talking about a supercharger first. A supercharger is forced induction, obviously, and it's the thing that sits on top of the engine, and it forces air into it, of course, and it has, this is pros and cons. The pros about the supercharger is that you get instant boost other than a turbocharger. But let's see, what's the other ones? Get instant boost. That's really the only pro about it that I could think of. It delivers instant boost when you mash the gas pedal. And the cons about it is you have to lose horsepower to gain horsepower. Now, if y'all don't know why that is, the supercharger is driven by the crankshaft, and when you put more stress onto the crankshaft, you're going to be losing horsepower. The Dodge Demon, the Hellcat Red Eye, they all have superchargers. But a supercharger, you have to get a bigger belt, a longer and bigger belt. Place all the pulleys for it. That's one of the cons. You have to kind of spend more money on the supercharger to replace a bunch of stuff. And let's see, that's really all the pros and cons about the supercharger. And now to move on to the turbocharger. The pros about a turbocharger is it delivers more horsepower than a supercharger, but yet you don't get that instant boost when you mash on the gas pedal. Oh, also, I was going to talk about the pros. Let's see. It makes more horsepower, and the reason why it doesn't make you don't have to lose horsepower to gain horsepower with a turbocharger. Oh, hiccups. Is because with the turbocharger, it's just hooked up to the intake and the exhaust, and it's just basically all a turbocharger is a fan. It's ran by the intake and the exhaust. That's how come it doesn't get the boost instantly, because it has the cycle that exhaust around to the turbocharger. Besides a supercharger, and it's driven by the crankshaft, and it goes along with the horsepower. And cons about a turbocharger. Well, I'm already on the cons. Look, you don't get instant boost. You don't get as much boost. Well, they get about the same amount of boost. Depends on what kind you get. Now, I'm going to talk about which supercharger and turbocharger is my personal favorite, and which I think is best. My favorite supercharger is a Whipple supercharger. And my favorite turbocharger is Garrett. And out of the both that is my favorite, it depends on what kind of car it is. Now, if it's like a V8, like a big block V8, yeah, and I already got enough horsepower, like let's say the horsepower is, well, let me talk about like the horsepower gain from a turbocharger and a supercharger. With a supercharger, if you have a 600 horsepower engine, if you put a supercharger on there, it varies with different superchargers, but let's say a Whipple supercharger, you're going to get about 200 to 300 more horsepower, but maybe 100, depends on what type of engine and what type of crankshaft you have in the car. If I was to put a supercharger on a truck or a car, I would upgrade a crankshaft first. That would be the first thing I do to the engine besides the supercharger. But with it, let's talk about horsepower gain with from the turbocharger. If you're gonna, let's say, you got a 600 horsepower engine again, 600, 700 horsepower engine. Yeah, if you put, twin turbos that I know of, if you put twin turbos on a 600 horsepower engine, let's just say a 6.2 V8. If you put a twin turbos on a 6.2 liter V8 like the Dodge Demon, you are going to get about 1,200 horsepower. I'm not for sure. I seen one Dodge Demon where it had twin turbos and it had 1,200 horsepower. I do a lot of researching just to figure out which one is better. Now, with a turbocharger, you are going to have to get a blow-off valve. And what a blow-off valve does is, once you let off the throttle, it releases all that pressure up in the turbocharger. It's like turbocharger got the things that you gotta have, and the main things you gotta have, and superchargers has the other things that they gotta have. A longer longer belt, and that's really all that you gotta have for it is a longer belt. Now, I got my personal opinions about what engines I would put on, like turbochargers on and superchargers on. Now, if I was, let's say, to have an import car like a Skyline, I would put turbos on it, because like they just do the best with it. But if I was to do a muscle car, I would put a supercharger on it. because those do the best. Like, each type of car has their downfalls with the turbocharger and the supercharger. Now with a rotary, I do not think that you could put a supercharger on it. I think you can, but if you rigged it up somehow. But if y'all don't know what a rotary is, it's the engine that Mazda RX-7 has. Well, Mazda. I've always loved Mazda. Like, that's one of my most favorite brands of cars. Either Dodge or Mazda. I do like the Toyota Supra, but I ain't too crazy about that. Sorry about that. Alright. If y'all want any recommendations on which one y'all should get, like, if y'all want like a project car, or if y'all getting like a project car or do have a project car and don't know which one y'all need, just tell me the liters of your car, like how many cylinders it is, what type of engine it is, and I will tell y'all. And also tell me what goal horsepower y'all are looking for, if y'all even care to. Now y'all probably could just look on YouTube and see which ones do better, but you can't ever tell what setup they got when they don't tell you. So that's kind of the problem about half the people that show it. But if y'all have like a Dodge Demon and y'all want more horsepower, just take the supercharger off and put some turbos on there. I preferably would put Garrett supercharger, Garrett and turbochargers on it. And same with diesels. If I was to put turbos on a diesel, I would put Garrett. Alright, I will talk to y'all later, because it is really hot.